Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Been a hot minute. Been about 2 weeks actually since we last spoke, and we completely
Yep.
missed the end of the Cup final. But that's okay because there was lots of coverage and everybody had it, so that's all
Yeah.
good.
There you go.
Neil was feeling under the weather, feeling a little better.
Yeah, I mean, I just have allergies. It's the best.
Yay!
It's lovely, lovely. So
And
I
I was
actually
gonna
have a
go ahead.
trivia
Yeah, yeah.
question for you today, by the way, Kyle. I
Oh,
just some
right off
popped
the
up.
bat.
I don't know. You want me to share it now, or do you want to wait?
Hey, you can go.
So, who had the highest time on ice average of any player in the Stanley Cup playoffs? And I'll give you a hint. He played just 5 games in the Stanley Cup playoffs.
He played 5 games. So was
Just
it
5.
somebody in the first round?
Somebody in the first round, yes.
And he only played 5 games. Was it oh my god, was it like David Savard or something like
It was
that from
not David
Montreal?
Savard. No,
No,
it
who?
was a defense. It is a defenseman, but it's not David Savard.
Was it on the Devils? Is this why you're
Sure,
is
sure.
it oh my god, it's a defenseman.
No, it's not Luke Hughes.
No. Is it Dougie?
It's not Dougie. No,
Who?
no, I did not.
Who was it?
Brian Dumoulin.
Ah,
Brian Dumoulin averaged 29 minutes and 21 seconds, which I
as
mean
they
was
held
to be
on for dear
expected
life.
because half the damn back end was destroyed. So yeah, I mean he'll be a coveted free agent. I feel like he'll be a pretty coveted defensive free agent
I would think so.
this year.
I would think he would.
I think the Panthers should go after him as a replacement for Aaron Ekblad when he leaves.
Well, so the funny thing is, we'll get into it with Rasmus Andersson talks because there was a developing story this morning from Elliot Friedman. But it's better if, from the Flames' perspective, if Aaron Ekblad signs with Florida, the sooner the better. Because if he signs with Florida, that just makes his appeal that much more enticing in the open market because he
Sure.
would then become the top
Right.
top defenseman
Yeah.
as trade bait,
Yeah,
right?
and then Toronto will call again.
Yay. But it's just for value purposes. Like you need Ekblad to really sign like in
Sure.
Florida, right? The sooner the better.
It's just hard because I think Ekblad, he's been a Panther his whole career. He was drafted there and all that
Yeah.
stuff. And the question then becomes like, is now money the more important thing because you've won several cups? Is like winning not the most important thing? I mean, it all depends on the person.
Right.
I mean, look, my attitude is the guy's still going to make more money than he'll ever need, regardless of where he goes.
Right.
And you might as well stick with the team that could definitely make a run at a three-peat next year.
And I don't think it'll surprise anybody if they're in it again next year. It doesn't matter how they get in, and they proved it this year, right? And they can do it again next year.
I think about Ekblad, like what was it, like a couple years ago? Like he had a couple seasons where he like blew out his leg and was out like the whole year. And I've like to go from that to winning back-to-back cups, I think is great for him.
Oh, it's huge.
But also that dude needed to stay out of the penalty box. I
Well,
felt
that's
like the
just
entire series he was just in the penalty box.
I know. Okay, so let's dive into, first of all, we have breaking news. For those of you who haven't seen,
not Flames news, but
not Flames
breaking news.
We have trade news, and then we'll jump into Anderson talk right afterwards, and we'll quickly talk about the finals. And we're looking forward to the draft coming up, so we'll get us really set for that. So a lot of stuff to cover today.
Yes.
So let's dive into it. So yeah, a trade that was announced about 10 minutes ago as your man Trevor Zegras is heading to Philadelphia in exchange for Ryan Fooling, a 2025 second-round pick, and a 2026 fourth-round selection.
Yeah.
Hard to think that with Zegras, where he was like 3 years ago, 2-3 years ago, and how much of a high-caliber player he was, that now he doesn't even get dealt for a first-round pick. Like, that's something that's alarming in itself. So, initial thoughts, Zegras heading to Philly.
Well, first and foremost, I think this was kind of the writing on the wall. I mean, there have been a lot of talks about him being moved even at last year's deadline. I think the reality is that, like you mentioned, he's certainly fallen off a lot. Part of it has to do with he's dealt with several major injuries that have kept him out for a long period of time. He hasn't been able to be consistent like he was earlier in his career. And so I look at him as a reclamation project, and he's still fairly young. I mean, that's kind of the thing. Like, he's still he still has the ability to get to a higher level of play in the right situation. And now with the Flyers having Rick Tocchet in the fold, I think that this is a good spot for Zegras. I think he can come in, and I think he can definitely deliver that type of offense, being a solid centerman. I think that they needed an offensive boost in Philadelphia, and he gets to go and play again with Jamie Drysdale, which is certainly an added bonus to the whole situation.
Yep.
So yeah, for Philadelphia, I very much like the move, and to not really give up much of value, I think it's a job well done by Daniel Briere. I would say this: I don't really know what Pat Verbeek's goal is with the moves that he's made. Right? You look at the last 3 major moves he's made. Right? You get Jacob Trouba for essentially nothing.
Cap dump.
It was cap dump. You get Chris Kreider again, cap dump. And then you trade away Trevor Zegras. What exactly are you trying to do? Other than, if these were cap dumps going the other way and you were just getting picks, I could see where that Pat Verbeek is like, okay, he wants to rebuild, right? But now you're getting these veterans, and, Ryan Pooling's contract is not awful in any way, shape, comparatively to Kreider or Trouba.
Right.
But I don't know, I would want to ask, Ducks fans, where exactly do you think your team is going? And I wouldn't be surprised if they would be like, I don't know, because it's strange. And I think John Gibson, I'm actually serious, Kyle, I think John Gibson actually does get moved this offseason. I think that saga, I think, will finally end.
Yeah.
And I think it most likely will be Edmonton.
I think we're all predicting
I think that's obvious. But yeah, I think overall, good trade for Philadelphia. Definitely interested to see what Zegras can do now playing in the Eastern Conference. He'll get a chance to play against his buddy Jack Hughes more than twice a year now. He'll play him 4 times a year. Yes. And he'll trade one type of orange for another type of orange and go across country. So, we'll see. But I like the move for Philadelphia. I think it's a low risk, high reward type of move for them.
And I like the fact that he now gets to play with Michkov too. And I think that's something that he's probably looking forward to. He's excited to play with, right? So, I really like it. I think I like it with Philly. I think they need to shore up the goaltending situation a little bit too. I think they were disappointed with the way the year went. I wonder, but also people say, okay, what happened, Verbeek? Why did you get so little for him? We don't know, but maybe this was the best you were going to get. Right? Because of the fact that the guy only scored 12 goals last year for the Ducks, right? So it's not like he did anything special. He only scored 12 goals, right? Mm-hmm. So to get a bottom 6 player in Fooling, to get a second round pick out of it, at least, it's sad that that's the trajectory that he went down. 3 years ago, Zegras would have been first rounder, high prospects. Top 6 player. That's the package he would have looked at. And to see it now, it's just wow, that's how much he's really fallen off, right? Mm-hmm. So I think the hope for Anaheim in this situation, the way you win this deal is you're just maybe Zegras doesn't really pan out in Philadelphia, right? And maybe it's still the player that he still is, right? You hope that he can kind of turn things around. And I think he can, but ultimately it's a really good pickup for Philadelphia. And I think it can only mean good things, right? Especially with only 1 year left on his contract. I think at $5.75 million. You're not taking on a lot of risk. You're replacing Ryan Fooling. You're only really losing a second round pick, and they have some sufficient picks already coming up. I think it's a great move for Philadelphia, and I think Anaheim probably could only get so much, right? That's the situation that I see.
And I think Flyers fans will feel a little bit better after obviously, trading away Morgan Frost, to Calgary. And I think this definitely makes them feel a little bit better with getting a guy like Zegras, because I think the way that Flyers fans have to look at it is that if it does work out, you're getting a guy that can be really, really good, really super good. And if it doesn't end up working out, did you really mortgage a lot of your future and big assets to get the guy? No. That's the way I looked at it also with when they got Kuzmenko. And it didn't end up working out very much for Kuzmenko in Philadelphia. But again, it wasn't the end of the world kind of situation for them. And they still got something in return for Kuzmenko when they moved him to LA. So I think for the Flyers, this is a new age kind of thing for them. They're trying to get younger. They're trying to get, more skilled, because I think that was something that they were lacking. And like you mentioned with the goaltending, they've been reported they're literally going everywhere to look for goaltending. They could be, even Dan Bladard, I think, is on their radar. It just means that they're literally searching everywhere. I would say, though,
Of course.
about John Gibson, since you already have this wonderful relationship with the Ducks, you've made several fairly big moves with them. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that maybe Philadelphia calls for Beacon again and says, hey, what can we work out, maybe a deal for John Gibson? And then you get a quality starting netminder in Philadelphia, something like you mentioned that they definitely need. So,
yeah, exactly.
Possibility.
It is absolutely a possibility. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to play a video that was on 32 Thoughts this morning. And credit to, you've probably seen him maybe on Flames Twitter, the Yuri Sharangovich replaced Breadman.
Mm-hmm.
I actually like following along with it because
Mm-hmm.
he actually, you just stay up to date with it mainly, right?
Sure.
So it's really good for that. But I'm gonna play. It's about a 3-minute video, and it's
Good.
Elliot Friedman talking about Rasmus Andersson. So I'm gonna pull it up for us here. Basically indicting the fact that the numbers were really far off between the two, and the fact that it's just about time, and there's really no sense of neglect or anger towards both sides. So we'll see if this works here, but we're gonna get we'll get a little clip here from Elliot Friedman.
It's a video that just has the picture of the recording of.
Yeah, so you're not
32
seeing
Thoughts.
anything, you're just
I
hearing.
mean, they don't really videotape 32 Thoughts. At least I don't think they do.
No, they don't.
No.
Okay, so this is Elliot Friedman and Kyle Bukauskas on Rasmus Andersson.
I just heard, I don't know what the numbers were here, but I heard they were so far apart that it was like when it kind of got around the league, a couple of people said to me, it's just, that's when you know it's time, right? Because the number comes to you, to Calgary, and you just kind of know, okay, this number means more than just the contract. And I think Andersson feels it's time. And I think Calgary understands that. Like, I don't think there's any hard feelings here. Like, it's the same thing like in Edmonton. I think Arvidsson and the Oilers, they're like, it's time. Nobody's knifing anyone else on the way out. Like, the Oilers aren't going to say anything bad about Arvidsson. I don't think Arvidsson's going to say anything bad about the Oilers. It just didn't work. It's time to move on. And I think that's kind of the thing with Andersson here. They've been together for a long time, and I don't think he's got anything bad to say about Calgary. I don't think they've got anything bad to say about him, but you get to the point where it's time. And I think everybody in the league sees that. I think Calgary sees that. I don't know if it's been communicated to them in so many words, but you reach a point where everyone kind of recognizes for a player, it's time. And it's hit there for Calgary, and it's hit there for Andersson. He's been a really good player for them. He turned out to be a great draft pick and a really good Calgary Flame. Again, I don't think anyone here has anything bad to say about anyone else, but it's time for something new for him. And I think at the very least, I'll say this: if you're the Flames, you're probably hoping Ekblad signs, because I still think you're going to be able to do well regardless. But now you're really going to be able to do well if Ekblad's off the board.
Right, one less guy. And so that's why I thought about, because he's still got one more year left on his deal. Andersson does. So with that in mind, I mean, will it ultimately be the offers that Craig Conroy gets? I mean, that could largely dictate whether something happens this summer, or is there still a chance that they could begin training camp and he's still a member of the Flames going into the last year?
I think in theory that could happen, Kyle. All I can say is that I heard people were serious.
Okay.
Like, I don't think, like, this is your best chance to make your team better, right? And I'll tell you what one team said to me. They said that, everybody's trying to sell tickets. Everyone wants to sell hope. Everyone wants to make their team better. You don't want to be, if you really believe that Andersson can help you, you don't want to be the person who didn't get him because you were fooling around, right? So, I mean, I don't know what I would say the percentage is, but I've heard there's legit interest.
So, the one thing that really stood out for me is you don't want to miss this window to make your team better, right? Again, what kind of transpired between last week and today was the fact that both sides got to the table. Andersson had a number, Conroy and company had a number, and they were very far apart. And now there's legitimate interest around the league. And like I alluded to earlier, you hope that Ekblad signs soon so that now his value even gets even higher, right? You're getting 1 year. And as well, too, something that I didn't even think about was the Flames can eat 50% of his cap as well, too. They could make Andersson a $2 million player next season by eating 50% of cap. So literally eat $2 million because they have so much cap space, right? And all of a sudden, Rasmus Andersson, who is one of the better top 4 defensemen, you know, I don't know where you want to rank him, but he's had consistently good years for the Flames all the way up to a little bit of last year. And they could really do some damage with this and get some really good value back. So imagine, you know, dangling Rasmus Andersson out there on the trade market at 50% retention at a $2 million valuation for 1 year. And you have a legit opportunity to make this team better. And the point is to get the centermans that you want. You have your, and also too, you know, you could make, I've got a sneaky feeling, Neil, something big is coming. Because they can do that with Andersson. They have 2 first-round picks, notably the one at 32, right? They do have I believe they have a 3rd-round pick. They don't have a 2nd.
Correct.
But they have so many assets. And I got a sneaky feeling that I don't think it's just going to be Andersson. I feel like it's going to be much more. And I think it's going to be to the magnitude of it might be the biggest trade this offseason.
I mentioned this to you, and I don't know how much more detail we're going to get into it at some point during this episode, but I mentioned to you that I was reading an article this morning from The Athletic, and they talked about 12 different teams that should be interested in acquiring someone like JJ Peterka. Now, here's the thing with that. You mentioned all the assets, and I think that the Flames have the assets to make a deal that could be enticing to Buffalo to acquire JJ Peterka. The problem is that I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Rasmus Andersson has a modified no trade clause
Correct.
That 6 teams. It wouldn't shock me, Kyle. It wouldn't shock me if one of those 6 teams was Buffalo.
One of them is Ottawa. So I mean, maybe the other one is Buffalo. However,
I would put good money on that.
However,
but if it's not,
people have waived their no move clause before.
So I mean, we just saw Eric Hall waive his to go from New Jersey to Nashville.
Well, there you go. Right.
And he didn't have to do that. Which shout out Eric Hall, by the way, for being a real one. Anyway, yeah, no, I really like the idea of taking like half of his contract at Andersson and then getting more value, because I think that you can. The question is this: who can we dangle him to where he would be comfortable with it and the other team would be willing to give up asset? I'll tell you right now, don't bother answering any of Toronto's calls. I know that they had interest in him at the deadline. Don't answer the phone because they don't have anything. Unless you're getting Matthew Nyes the other way, which I would say I think there is a possibility that Nyes could get moved, but who knows?
So sorry, I didn't mean to finish your point there.
You're good.
So my belief and the way that we saw Zegras here just happened a few minutes ago, he's getting sent all the way to Philadelphia. I can't foresee Anderson staying in the West. Now,
No.
he only has a year left on his deal. So if they need to survive it for a year and
Okay.
him in the West, then they will, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just looking at the East specifically. And I realistically think there might only be, I would argue, 3 teams that you could look at. I would say, so you're right with Buffalo, because I think there's been a lot of
I think Buffalo. Yep.
right? And we'll get into this afterwards too on the screen where, what can they possibly get back in terms of
Sure.
draft picks, young centers, all that sort of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
left shot defenseman, right? So I see Buffalo. I see Columbus
Okay.
in that party because I like the idea of one name that I like is Kent Johnson,
Okay.
centerman. I might be missing a few names too, so correct me if I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I'd also like to take a look at the Islanders, specifically for a big move, maybe a Matthew Barzal, and see if, I don't know what his no trade clause looks like. But I could see them maybe making a swing at it. I don't know, right? If the Islanders end up selecting a guy like Matthew Schaefer, who plays on the left side, maybe he needs a complementary piece on the right because they're also looking to move away from guys like Alexander Romanov. And the rumblings also, too, is that Noah Dobson could be out the door as well.
Yeah, but I ain't paying the dude like whatever the.
You weren't going to pay him that money anyway, regardless.
Yep.
So I don't know where you want to see it on the Richter scale there, but I'm actually, the more I'm thinking about it, I would probably take a good hard look at Columbus because they had a really good year.
Mm-hmm.
Despite everything that happened, right?
Yeah.
I would say Columbus sounds very enticing.
Yep.
Out West, I probably wouldn't look in our own division. I don't think there's anything really there, to be honest with you. So you're looking at, okay, well then let's take a look at the Central Division to see if there's anything that would kind of fit the bill. Does Utah enter the picture a little bit? I could see Utah entering the picture. I could see, I don't know if Nashville has the cap space for it, but maybe they try to run it back with the same core. I don't know. Again, they don't really have anything enticing in terms of young centermen. The only one I can think of maybe is Luke Evangelista. I don't know if that comes into play as well. The biggest one I think, though, on this list is going to be the Minnesota Wild and what they do with Marco Rossi. I just think that there's so much, you can get so much because Marco Rossi's value is so high. Flames have the 2 first-round draft picks. They don't even really need to select in the first round, if I'm being frank. I don't think this draft class this year is that polarizing. Right?
It kind of tapers off after the first 5 or 6 picks. If I'm
pretty
being
much.
The thing about it is that even with the first overall pick, now it's sounding like it's a lot more likely it's Schaefer at 1, but I've been hearing things like even after pick 1, it's just up in the air. It just depends on who you ask.
Michael Misa, James Hagens,
right?
Caleb Denor.
I've seen mock drafts where Hagens is dropping to the 10-15, range. I mean, it's interesting. I'm really glad you brought up the Marco Rossi situation because one tidbit that I've heard, and I think you've probably seen it recently, is that Rossi wants to be guaranteed top 6 minutes.
Sure.
I think the Flames can absolutely offer that to him.
He would absolutely get that.
Would he automatically be our top line center though?
He'd be second line center.
Second line problem, which I think
and it's a 1-2 punch with Kadri and Rossi up the middle.
If you have the money, you have the cap space to give him what he wants.
Right.
And I obviously think the Wild still want to compete. I don't think trading Rossi means, they're gutting the roster.
Right. I agree.
And they do need help on the back end because, quite frankly, it's not great.
Mm.
So honestly, I would because what you have in a situation like this, Kyle, is you have 2 players who both definitely, I think, want a change of scenery. I think Rossi doesn't want to be in Minnesota at this point. I could be wrong, but
I don't know. I think that I think his name's been thrown around too much where I think it's becoming loud and they need to sign Kaprizov and all that. The one other team I was going to mention, last team I was going to mention. So I mentioned Columbus, Buffalo, Minnesota. I'll throw Utah in there. One other team I'm going to mention, the Dallas Stars. Because, again, go back to it.
Who would you want in the deal coming back, though, is the question.
I think if you were going to do it with Dallas, it would need to be a lot of draft picks. That's the only thing. That's the only thing I don't like, because the only player that I can
Yeah.
see of value for that would be probably Maverick Bork.
And I don't think
That's
you're going
about
to
it
convince Flames fans to get excited about
Maverick Bork. Yeah,
Maverick Bork. I'm not saying like Bork's not a bad player. It's just
Maverick Bork, or
Yeah.
honestly, you know what I'm thinking too? Is because they were so bad on the right side this year, right? Because you had literally guys like Labushkin and friggin' Matt Dumba. They were
Sure.
so bad on the right side this
Yeah.
year. The other name that sounds enticing too, who I would maybe take a look at, what about Thomas Harley? He plays on the. If you look here, shout out
Yeah.
to Flames Nation, by the way, for putting this article out. They're also looking for a young left shot defenseman. Thomas Harley fits that bill. He's got 1 year left before he's an RFA at $4 million. He's 23 years old and left shot defenseman, and was literally on Team Canada this year for the Four Nations.
Mhm.
So if it's, I could see a world where it might fit the bill, where, maybe they can find a way to acquire both Bork and Harley, because he only has 1 year left on his deal. I actually don't hate that. So I look at about 5 teams I think that they could probably work with here. So I would say Columbus would be enticing. I like Dallas here because I think they're desperate and they want to get over that hump so badly, because their window is now, right? I would say Utah too, because they want to get it on the picture. Maybe they're more or less into free agency this year and looking at a guy like Mitch Marner. Buffalo, the enticing, look at JJ Peterka and other names too that you could maybe look at.
Yeah.
He's away from the conference as well too. So I think there's a couple of different names, and then the Marco Rossi situation. So is there one team there that you maybe would look at first more than anything else?
Definitely Minnesota.
Okay. So still
I think definitely Minnesota Rossi, because the framework is there right away.
Right.
Because the thing about Buffalo is the fact that you have to ask the question of where is Buffalo's thinking in terms of where they want their team to be going moving forward? Are they rebuilding, or are they going to try to make a push to get into the playoffs next year? Like, is that the question? Because if you're trading JJ Peterka, who's still incredibly young and completely fits what Calgary wants to do, especially with center core, you have to look, you have to wonder to yourself exactly where, Buffalo's situation is. Here's the thing with Marco Rossi is that the Wild are in a much different position in terms of competing. They still are going to compete. They can still definitely make the playoffs, even if you don't have Marco Rossi in the fold.
And they're out of cap hell.
Right? The Sabres are not in cap hell by any means. Like, they could sign Peterka to what he's asking for. They're just choosing not to right now. That's just what they're not doing. So I think the Wild just makes so much sense because you're helping them financially, and you're also giving them a pretty solid right-handed defenseman, which they need as well.
Right.
And does it suck to give up a guy as young as Rossi is? Yes, but at the same time, you've put yourself in that position.
Well, that's right.
And that's I don't want to say that Anderson is a disgruntled player, but as Friedman put in that clip, they're so far apart at this point that I think it's just obvious that both sides just need a change.
Yeah.
And that happens in the league. The difference is with Rossi is that Rossi's been like, I want to be paid and I want to be guaranteed that I'm going to be playing in the top 6. And the Wild don't seem to be wanting to do either one of those things.
You got it. Sounds, and I mean, to teams around the league right now, what sounds more enticing? A team that can hold 50% cap on Anderson at $2 million, or a Rossi where you're going to have to pay him probably close to 10 mil.
Right.
And he is an RFA, right?
Right. And that, I would be surprised if Anderson on his modified no trade clause has like Minnesota as one of those 6 teams. I would be kind of confused by that.
Yeah, I don't think it was ever really put out either.
You mentioned Matt Barzal.
Yes.
Keep in mind his modified no trade clause is a 22 team.
Yeah,
so
I'm shooting at a left
field. I wouldn't be shocked, Kyle. I wouldn't be shocked if like all of the Canadian teams are on that list.
Maybe.
or maybe most of them. I don't know.
Maybe.
Some. I don't
So
know.
okay, so I'll replace the Islanders then, and I'm going to throw in Nashville because their best right shot defenseman, seriously, is Justin Barron. Because they're
And
not going to have
also, they
Roman
made it
Josi.
clear. They said after the Hall of Trade that they're not trying to like go backwards. They're trying to move. So the question then becomes, what does Nashville have to offer that we could be like, yeah, we could take that?
Let's take a look and see.
Because I do.
Don't forget, Roman Josi is out for a long period of time next year. Hopefully, he gets better.
That is such an
And he
unfortunate.
is, and that's the thing. Like, he is their best right shot defenseman, and he's probably top 5 in the league. I would argue top.
He might miss out on the Olympics.
I hope he doesn't, because he
Which would suck.
Be sorely missed. Right.
Oh yeah.
So looking at Nashville, I mean, maybe. Well, don't forget they have
their first round pick.
Their first round pick would have to be in play, right? Their
It could be a draft day trade. We're a couple days away. I mean, I'm just saying it could be there.
I would not. Don't be surprised if Andersson gets moved before the draft on Friday. Don't be surprised if that happens.
This whole week, like it's when Eric Holla got traded the day after the last game of the finals, my response was, yeah, it's starting. Yeah, everyone's going to start doing, and we've already seen it, and we just saw it today with Zegras. Other guys are getting moved. It's going to happen.
It is. So. It is. I mentioned Luke Evangelista earlier. He's a RFA actually this year. So the funny thing is player-wise, I don't really see anybody that enticing. The only person who I would maybe look at would be Matthew Wood, right? But you would have to. But he's a 20-year-old centerman who's still under his entry-level contract, right?
Yeah.
But for Nashville, their number 6 pick would be, I think they're number 6. That would absolutely have to be in play. So I think, don't be surprised if it's a draft day move, or if it's right before the draft that Andersson gets dealt.
Yeah.
Because I think they want to pounce on this quick.
You want to strike while the iron is hot.
Strike it now, and I think that's kind of what the vibe is and what they're going.
Especially since free agency is also coming up, and again, we were talking about Aaron Ekblad, right? I mean, is it a guarantee that he's going to stay in Florida? No, because Florida's got to figure out Ekblad, Bennett, which I think at this point
Bennett's probably going to stay.
Bennett's going to stay. He's going to take less. Marchand, I'm going to be honest with you. He may very well want to cash in at this point in his career.
He might want to cash in.
Or he just stays in Florida. Or
he wants to stay happy in Florida, right?
He's just fine.
Sam Bennett, I feel like, is going to stay after that.
Sam Bennett,
8 more years. I'm like, I guess we know.
If you're going to, look, I understand he might be intoxicated, but he has said several times he's not leaving. So I would just be like, it would be kind of funny if he would say all that and then he would still end up leaving.
Oh, I know, right? They'd be pissed.
Unless the Panthers completely lowball his ass.
That's the thing. It's going to be hard for all 3 of those guys to stay. Now, can they all stay? Absolutely, but they're going to have to take a discount. And I think out of those 3
guys, I think the likeliest guy to leave, this is just my opinion, I think the likeliest guy to leave is Marchand.
I could see that too.
I think Ekblad is willing to take less. I think Bennett would definitely take less.
Yeah. Bennett would absolutely take less to stay. I could see that.
Yeah.
Last thing I wanted to mention here before we move on, or we can stay and talk about it more. I wanted to mention, and I know it's a different time, but this was Lindholm. Okay. He was on an expiring deal. And what they got as a refresher was they thought they were getting another 40-goal scorer here in Andrei Kuzmenko, right? Didn't really pan out the way it did. But for those few 26 some odd games that season, it was nice for Kuzmenko.
Yeah.
But they get Kuzmenko, a first, a fourth, which they flipped for 2 additional picks, Brustevich and Jan Yermo. And Brustevich at this rate is probably going to be in the NHL, not this coming season, but next.
He could surprise us.
He could make it. He could have a really good camp and shock people. Absolutely.
Right there, if you're Craig Conroy, there's your example of strike while the iron is hot, buddy, because you could get something like this.
They will absolutely get more for Andersson than Lindholm.
Especially if they retain.
if they retained,
Oh, yeah.
they could get so much back for him.
Yeah.
So
I would be, if I'm Craig, I'm calling right now. I'm dangling.
But the thing is, he's not calling.
True.
It's all the other teams. You want him? Come get him.
Yeah.
Right? That's what's happening right now.
Because he knows he doesn't have to do it right away. He can wait it out.
He doesn't. He could, yes, like you probably still want, he could wait it out until maybe later in July. Like he doesn't have to do it right away.
I wouldn't want Anderson. This is not, and they're not critical of Anderson, but I just would be like, I don't want it to be like September.
Yeah, and I don't want him
still here, and I'd be like, it would be a very awkward like training camp.
Yeah,
because that these players on the Flames, like they all have social media. They're
not stupid. Right?
They're not stupid. So like if he's still there,
yeah,
weird. It's just a weird thing. That's what happened with Lindholm as well. It was kind of weird because we had been hearing that he was going to get dealt. Then we go through the whole offseason, nothing happens. And it was weird, like at first, but then he finally got dealt.
Yes.
But again, it was like, he wasn't going to be on the team long term, essentially. We knew that.
The only other name I can think of, and I wanted to bring up Columbus too, because we were looking at some of the other teams and what they had. We looked at Dallas, quickly looked at Nashville, and we quickly looked at Buffalo. We saw JJ. No.
That's not going to happen.
Adam Fantilli has one more year left on his entry-level deal.
I mean, look, I'm not against getting Adam Fantilli, but here's the thing. What would Columbus be signaling to everybody if they get Rasmus Andersson for a trade involving Adam Fantilli? Do they get much better? I'm not criticizing. Again, this is not knocking on Andersson, but again, are they getting that much better?
They also have Danton Matichuk as well too.
Okay, now we're talking.
Because he was also a left shot defenseman.
So
here's how I think how it boils down to, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but the biggest value of any trade, whatever it may be, and all the other pieces that fall below it for an Andersson deal, has to start with one of two things. It's got to be probably if it's one of those top teams in the top 10 in the draft this year, got to be on the table.
Mm-hmm.
Got to be. Even anybody in that top 5, we're talking Nashville, we're talking Utah at 4. Like, if that's something they want to explore, that's the first thing that's got to be on the table.
Sure. Yeah, I get it.
Right? If not, then it's got to be a type of, I mentioned the names earlier, Thomas Harley there from Dallas, right? It's got to be a high-end guy who either you're looking at a young centerman, right, who's ready to go, or you're looking for a young left shot defenseman. And I think if you look at that decor, I'm just thinking about Thomas Harley. You got 1 year left on an RFA deal, right, for Thomas Harley, right? And you could have the leverage, and your defense could look like Weegar, Parekh, who probably makes the team coming up, right, because he's going to replace Anderson, and you have Thomas Harley there. Like, there's a lot of ways that this team can get better right now, and it's going to be fascinating to watch because I think there's a lot of different avenues they can go down. I think what you're going to wait for and see is you're going to wait for Conroy to wait for the right team, and he might even play some strategy here and say, you know what, guys, I might be looking at this other team, and I don't know if I want to take your offer right now.
There you go.
And then they might bolster up the price. But it's got to be a team that's desperate to make a move.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. And I think
I can't think of any other teams, though.
I think Conroy, in this very moment, I think Conroy can practice patience for sure.
I'm going to be keeping my eyes out on the news because I think we'll have to have an emergency pod at some point.
We
might have to if he gets dealt. I might have to.
It's going to happen like an hour after we jump off here.
Oh, it usually does.
You're like, great.
Shit like that usually happens, right?
It's happened before. We've talked about things and then we leave.
Yeah.
And if we just held on for another like 30 minutes, it would have been.
Then it would have been totally fine.
Then it would have been so good. But like, I'm telling you this, I think in general, I could speak for the majority of the NHL. This is going to be one of the most interesting off seasons because of the fact that the salary cap is going up, because more teams are interested in going after RFAs, because of different teams willing to take on these bad contracts. I mean, that happens every year, but like this year more in particular, or if you're just the Anaheim Ducks at this point.
Right.
I think we're going to see a lot of draft day trades, Kyle. I really do. I think
we got nothing last year, and it's going to be
we had nothing last year, but we weren't taught. But keep in mind, last year it wasn't like it was being talked about a lot in terms of, oh, this might happen. We're hearing a lot of things all at once.
I think it's going to work better at the draft this year because everybody's in a war room and they're not beside each other.
It's
right.
True.
So I think we're going to see some fireworks. I have some more news that is kind of breaking as well too. It is Flames related. Not the biggest signing in the world, but it sounds like Costco man Justin Kirkland is nearing an extension with the Flames.
Let's go.
Sounds like he's back for one more year. It's going to be around the $1 million mark, and it appears Kirkland will be back with the Flames next year.
Great.
So feel good story. Tough way to end it halfway through the year because he's his ACL injury. But it sounds like Justin Kirkland is on his way back to Calgary. So
I'm glad.
Yeah, it's super good. Now I think what we can do, we were talking about the draft, and I think we can continue with it. So ideally, I think the way that this is going to go, I think the Flames are planning on picking at 18 this year. I wouldn't be surprised if they drop down out of 32. I don't think anybody would. I think they probably collect some more picks, maybe get a second pick or a second round pick somewhere, collect some more picks later on if somebody wants to select something at 32. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. And they just pile up some more picks. So the real question is going to be, and they're kind of in an interesting spot, and I kind of like it because you're right. After 5, and top 5 even still is up for debate at this point.
Yep.
We don't really know who's going to go where. It's kind of a
we have no idea.
No clue. Some names have been thrown around there, like a Benjamin Kindle, who would go later on in the first round. One name that I keep looking at is a guy like Brady Martin out of the Sioux, who I actually watched him play a while ago, and he's smaller in figure, but he does really well on the power play. More importantly, is he scores goals, and I think that's something that they want to try to capitalize on, especially with the way the draft went last year. So looking at some targets here for the Flames coming up, potential picks here. Let's kind of go through it here on Sportsnet, and then Neil, if you have any thoughts on certain prospects that they.
Well, I did. I don't know if you remember on Slack, I was giving you a couple of names.
Yeah, and it was his first one here, wasn't it?
No. No. There were 2 guys. It was How do you say his last name? Resny.
Cole Resny. Yeah.
Cole Resny or Braden Coots were my 2.
Coots, correct.
Coots was the other one because I think that he can definitely,
and he's right there.
he's right there. There you go. Yeah, see? Yeah, great minds think alike. Who wrote this article?
No kidding. So Cole Resny here, he's 5'11". He's got about 183 pounds, soaking wet. 9 goals, 16 assists, and 11 playoff games this year for the University of North Dakota. He had 5 goals and 8 points for Canada at the U18s this year as well. Sportsnet's got him ranked around 17th as a potential top 6 forward, middle 6 at worst. 6 of the top 18 draft protagonists think that he'll be snapped up before the Flames pick at 18th. So a lot of people think that he probably goes beforehand, but if he falls, that's probably somebody that they want to look at. And also, too, just for clarification, the Flames actually do have a second-round pick. I was mistaken. They got it from the Andrew Mangiapane trade back last year when they traded him. They got Washington's second-round pick, which will be later on in the second because Washington, for some reason, did so well this year.
That's true.
It sucks.
That is true.
But they do have a second-round pick. They have a third, no fourth, 5, 6, and 7.
Yep.
Braden Coots, another name you mentioned there, 5'11", 183 pounds.
By the way, I've decided I'm a Seattle Thunderbirds fan. By the way,
Neil is a Seattle Thunderbirds fan.
I changed this one we go with.
I also have an idea at the end of the show that I was thinking what we should do. So Braden Coots here, you mentioned as well, 26 goals and 37 assists in 60 games this season for Seattle. Right shot product out of Sherwood. They rank him around 14th to 15th range. They would be surprised if he falls down to 18. So that's a guy who probably gets taken early on. A guy that I just mentioned there, Ben Kindle.
That was another guy I was really high on, especially because he's been playing in Calgary. So like the Flames have been able to watch him a lot.
Calgary Hitman product, who's played out of the Saddle Dome all year. 35 goals, 99 points for the Hitman this year. He got 8 goals and 15 points in 11 playoff games. So bit of a shiftier playmaker, trying to find some sort of consistency for him, but he's kind of around the 15 mark. He's actually gone up in the rankings so far. Jack Nesbitt, too, out of Windsor. Again, 6'4", 185 pounds, tall centerman as well, too. They already have that in Klapka, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I mean, look, dude, honestly, like I'll take a 6'4" offensive player. I'm not gonna complain.
You got it. And they also have the prediction where it's either Andersson trading, and their one bold prediction is they think that Calgary makes a splash at the deadline at the draft this year, moving up in the draft order, maybe landing another young centerman to grow. It wouldn't surprise me if they do move up in the draft, they get into that top 6 range, whether it be Nashville, Utah, whoever might be up there, and they get something like Higgins or whatever. But they might find a way to keep that. They're going to keep that 18th pick, but I think they really want to make sure that they get their young centermans right away. And a guy that hasn't been mentioned to, I think that needs to be mentioned to, is Brady Martin. Is there a guy here, Neil? Jack Nesbitt, Ben Kindle, Braden Coots, Cole Reshny. I'm going to throw in Brady Martin as well, too. Is there a guy that you would take first out of the guys that you see in potential young centermans here?
Braden Coots, in my opinion.
Okay.
That's who I watched a bunch of, his play last year and also playing for Team Canada at the World Juniors. This is a guy that I feel like is mature beyond his age. And I think that he also has the ability to be a really, really good two-way centerman in the NHL. I know that obviously people are going to get, they're going to be less interested because of his height, being 5'11". But, let's be honest, guys, like how many like 17, 18-year-olds are going into the draft and they're, 6'5" and whatever as a forward.
Well, exactly. Right.
Right. So the way that I look at it is like, you're getting a guy that could be one of the puzzle pieces for a much better offense in the future. And I think him having that ability and also being one of those guys that you can really, really mold into a leader, an even bigger leader moving forward, I think is important. He's one of those guys that I could see, like, he comes to development camp and immediately is the guy there, but he turns to this like lead by example kind of thing. I really, really like his shot. I really do. I think he has a really good wrist shot. Excuse me. I think also, saw it a couple times, Kyle. He's not afraid to get in front of the net. He's 5'11", but he's not afraid to get in front of the net. This is a guy that's willing to kind of basically do everything to get the puck in the back of the net. And that excites me as a guy who's a big fan of offensive centermen. So I would definitely, if there's the opportunity to trade up to get Coots, I would do that personally.
Okay.
But if that, and I'm not talking about like we trade up to like 6 and we take Coots then, I think that would be a bit of a reach. But I'm saying like if it's like pick 13 or 14 and maybe you have an opportunity to move up,
then
I would do that. I would personally do that.
So for me, I think Ben Kindle's name has been mentioned, thrown around quite a bit. Yeah, I'm kind of on the Braden Coots train a little bit too. If a lot of these guys end up getting,
I think Kindle's going to be there late in the first round. I
feel like he is too.
He's a late first, early second round guy for me.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily swing on that, but maybe your hopes would be that Braden Coots or Cole Reshny do fall, because it could happen, right? There's guys that
don't know. This draft is up in the air, dude.
There's needs that need to be taken place here, right?
Yes.
So for Flames fans, here's some draft picks you need to be aware of before the Flames pick, in case this is something that the Flames do and they want to move up. So I think you probably look at Utah at number 4, just throwing it out there. Nashville's actually 5th. They're 5th. So they have a top 5 pick that they don't necessarily need. So I would say Nashville at 5. The Blue Jackets select at 14. So if that's something that works, you would maybe instead utilize maybe the second round pick from Washington. I don't know, but you could move up as well too, depending how that works. I don't know, but I think there could be a lot of pieces there. And then the Buffalo Sabres at number 9 would be the other one that I would look at before the Flames pick at 18. So I'm either really looking at 14, 9, and probably number 5 or 4, I would say. But
I'm with it.
Do you think Nashville needs to pick at number 5?
No.
I don't think so.
Especially if we're going off of what they're saying about how they're not trying to take a step back. They're trying to
regroup after what happened.
They're trying to regroup, not rebuild.
Yeah.
So that's a team that other teams who would like to move up in the draft could definitely call.
Sure.
And be like that. Now, am I saying trade Rasmus Andersson for the 5th overall pick? I would like more than just the 5th overall pick, Kyle, though, honestly.
Yep. Me too.
I just going, that's the way I look at it. I would definitely, like, if Columbus also is willing to move, maybe you get something as with the 14th overall pick. I don't know. Johnson, maybe. I feel like maybe that's an overpay. Maybe that. I feel like if Columbus gave us a deal of like Kent Johnson and the 14th pick for Rasmus Andersson,
sure.
I feel like the Blue Jackets are overpaying.
Maybe. They might be. I actually, the more I'm thinking about it, I've got a feeling that Nashville could call.
Oh yeah.
Because they don't. That's the thing. Like, like you have the capability. Like, the year didn't go the way you planned. Yeah, you have the number 5 pick.
Yep.
But you're looking to get better now, and also Roman Yossi's gone for the foreseeable future, and we don't know when he's back. So, are you just gonna piss guys off more like Stamkos and Marchessault and the guys that you signed like Brady Shea and all that, and cave in this year? Like, you still have UC Saros, who didn't have the best year. I could see him bouncing back a little bit, but you need to have damage control on the right side.
Yeah.
And I think Andersson could fit that bill very easily, right? And then by the time Yossi comes back, all of a sudden, if the Predators hang around the picture in the playoffs, then we'll see what happens.
And their top defenseman on the right side, Kyle, is Justin Barron.
That's the thing.
So
they don't have a right shot defenseman.
I'm starting to think maybe more. That might be the team to call.
I like it a lot. I do like it.
Yeah, I'm for it. I mean, to me, to get that type of value and to be able to, and maybe you even keep 18 as well.
I think they would, for sure. 18 would
I don't think Nashville would be like, oh, well, we want 18. It'd be like, no, now you're pushing it. Now you're.
I'd give them 32. I give them 32.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. But if you can, so if you're swapping essentially 32 for the 5th overall pick while keeping 18, I got to be honest, that's pretty good business.
Yeah. It's
and then you end up getting one of the higher quality, players in this draft, and you could still get a really good guy at 18, maybe even move up again, who knows, but it would be a really good thing for the Flames.
And I think it would be so good too, because my understanding, and you mentioned it, outside of, we don't even know if Schaefer is going to go number 1 at this point. I don't know. Well, they don't know if Dobson that's coming back to the Islanders.
I really do think Schaefer's going to be the guy.
Right.
Really.
Well, then it opens up, right? Porter Martone, Michael Misa, James Hagens, Caleb Denor. Like, there's a lot of potential guys all of a sudden that could fit that bill.
Yep.
It's going to be fascinating to see. I think it's the biggest week of the year so far for the Flames right before the draft.
And it's only Monday.
We
don't know what could happen moving forward. We don't know.
Shit's going to go down between now and then. Don't forget the Flames also have Vegas' first round pick next year too. Last thing I wanted to bring up, because we didn't really talk much about the Stanley Cup Finals. Panthers obviously win in 6 games. Old news, right? I wanted to bring up, because there was a lot of talk around Edmonton, right? And the biggest news being McDavid, right? I think everybody's talked about it at this point, and the fact that he could see maybe a bridge deal, whether he signs long term, you don't know, right? I just wanted to get your thoughts on the Oilers situation, because it feels like for their franchise, this next month changes their whole dynamic almost. So I wanted to get your thoughts on McDavid and what the Oilers maybe need to do in this next month or so.
Yeah, well, obviously, McDavid definitely left the door open by saying, I got to do what's best for me and my family. Mm-hmm. So that will definitely lead people like us to speculate that maybe he is considering another option. Maybe. I mean, look, I honestly think long-term, McDavid's going to stay in Edmonton. I just have a tough time seeing him move, but I think what McDavid is really trying to say to Edmonton is, show me that we can fix these problems before I really commit.
Right.
Because if we're not able to retool this team to be better than what we had this year, I think it's going to be harder for McDavid to want to feel excited about where this team is going. I think, and look, Edmonton has to do these moves anyway. It's not, regardless of McDavid. Like you can't go into next year with Stuart Skinner and Calvin Pickard. I'm sorry, you can't. You just can't. No. So if you got to go and get John Gibson,
mind you, I remember they mentioned though about John Gibson in his he was pulled in a hefty amount of starts in his last 19 games. Like he was pulled a lot, so it's not like you're getting another star goaltender.
No, and I think that's the thing, right? And I heard things about Jake Allen, and my response is, are you really going to trust Jake Allen to play 40 plus games as a starter? Nope. Jake Allen's a very good backup. I mean, I saw it the last year and change.
Hey, he's better than Pickard.
He is better than Pickard. And if you want to get him to be as a backup, sure, I could totally get behind that. But if that's the number one guy you're going with next year, I don't know. You need depth. You need depth on that team, and I don't think they don't have it right now.
Freeman mentioning too this morning that Arvidsson's probably going to be out the door,
which makes sense.
Yeah.
I think he has to get traded, right? He's
got to get traded. Yeah. So it's the continued commitment to him that you're the stupid thing is they were talking about the Oilers like they were dead in the water, right? By the way, we had a party and celebration the fact that the Oilers lost in Game 6, so that was
for sure. Yeah,
we survived another year without them winning a cup. Yeah. But I wanted to bring it up just because I feel like I can see a bridge deal with them, but the Oilers management, it's on them now to make it better and make it seem more formidable that the Oilers could be a foregone conclusion to go to the final next year.
They have to figure it out, right? And look, they're able to get through the Western Conference. They've proven it the last 2 years. But once they go up against against Florida, this year was worse because at times they really had it looked like they had no business being there. No, they led for a grand total of 33 minutes of the entirety of the finals.
Yep.
The fact that they even won 2 games, in my opinion, Kyle, is shocking. With how much they were getting dominated by Florida. They could have easily lost in 4 or 5.
Shouldn't have won Game 4, really.
No, they should have lost game. They should have been out in 5.
Yeah.
And that would have been even worse. I would say this, that I think, if I'm not mistaken, McDavid's eligible for an extension on July 1st. I think that's
correct.
So
correct.
I would say this. Don't be surprised if nothing happens with his contract right now. I think that McDavid wants to give the Oilers the opportunity to redeem themselves in terms of making this team better. Because I think they do have the right coach in place. I think they've proven that.
It's just the product, really.
They need depth and they need goaltending.
It's true.
And it's going to be hard because there's going to be a lot of teams that are going to be trying to find depth. especially when you look at what Florida's done.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So,
Exactly. Yep.
and this is not the year of the goaltending in terms of free agency either. I'll tell you that right now.
And trading for, you can't really
trading
trade for a
for
goaltender.
because
That was last year with Mark
That was 100%. That was The Flames were one of the teams that was like, willing to trade like a top flight goaltender, 100%. But this year it's like, and it's becoming more apparent now, Kyle, that if you have a really good goaltender, you really should try to hold on to them as long as possible. I will say, Calgary was a different scenario because you had Dustin Wolf. So
it's crazy though. Like
you didn't have to worry. You had that coming up. You didn't have, it wasn't like they were in a desperate situation where they couldn't afford to get rid of Markstrom. No, it worked out. It's worked out for everybody. So
yeah, it's crazy how like a year ago we didn't know about Wolf really, and it was like, okay, like you've seen him in a couple of games, but now it's like you got a full season ahead of you, and you weren't still even considered the number one goaltender. And we didn't know how he was going to do. And he just completely took over.
And damn happy he did.
And now it's up to management to do something about it. And we're going to see it more than likely this week is what I'm hearing. So between now and the end of the day on Friday, it's going to be a fascinating week.
The Flames are one of those teams that they have a lot of control. It's not like that they're
all control. Correct.
It's fine. They're going to be fine. However, whatever direction they go in. And that is honestly one of the best feelings you can have as a fan when you know that your team is totally fine right now.
Yeah.
They're not super desperate. It's not like they have to go out and get like Mitch Marner or someone in the offseason and they'll be fine. It's like they can do a lot of different things that could be very beneficial to the team.
Yeah.
And I have my full trust in Craig Conroy.
Yeah. The time to strike is now because you're not going to get another chance to sell one of the best top 4 D-man in the league if you retain 50% at $2 million. Like you're not going to get another chance to do that. And his value is probably it's really high. Maybe it's not at its highest, but it's definitely up there. Right. Yeah. So yeah, you don't get a lot of chances to do that. And there's going to be teams knocking on the door and it's going to be the best. And ultimately at the end of the day for Craig, he doesn't have to do much with it. It's the best one wins, right?
Sure.
I wonder though if he wants to do something before the draft. That's the biggest question, right? Does he wait until after the draft is over, or is it something that he just can't pass up on it? So
he might get a call. I think he will. I think
he definitely has. He definitely has. And if it hasn't been yet, it will be this week. He'll get.
I mean, look, it's a matter of like teams are definitely. I'm sure teams have already called. About Anderson. I'm not even, the second that Freeman put that out there, my response is he's definitely gotten calls from teams.
Well, that's just it, right?
So, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun because we just don't know. There could be a lot of movement, not just with the Flames, but in general. There could be a lot of movement in the NHL this offseason.
You got it.
So once, like, we were hoping, like, I would have liked more movement at the deadline because we were kind of like hyping it up, and then it was like one big move and that was it kind of thing.
But it's all happening this week, right? And it's going to happen at the
all happening this week.
You got it.
At the off season, you're competing. Look, I don't like saying this, but you are competing with the NBA in a way.
I hated the fact though that Kevin Durant gets dealt like.
I've said this before. That proves to me the NBA is scripted. My thinking is that trade was finalized a day ago or 2 days ago. And Adam Silver said, we're not going to announce it until the day of Game 7 of the finals because Kevin Durant's at Fanatics Fest, the big thing that's going on in New York.
Yeah.
And we'll announce it while he's there and get like a live reaction. It'll be awesome and all that stuff. And I'm telling you, that's how it goes. And then keep in mind, the NBA draft is before the NHL draft. The NBA draft is Wednesday.
Excuse me. Thank you.
So, there could be a lot that could happen in the next 48 hours in there, So, it's the NHL has a chance to do some craziness that could get attention.
Yep.
And I hope it happens.
I do too.
Which, by the way, I think next Monday is what, the 30th?
Next Monday is the 30th. Yes, day before Canada Day.
Do we do a free agency preview?
Yeah, so we can do So what the plan is going to be, I figure I'll tell you now because you're on here as well too. So the off-season plan for Flames Cast is going to be this, because I should say this was on me. I was so bad with keeping it up last week. But the plan is that we've recorded today. We're going to record next Monday. I might be live for the draft on Friday night. We'll see how it goes. Monday will be free agency preview. And then afterwards, the following Monday will be our last show for the summer. My plan is I'm going to record a bunch of player reviews and, different things that's going to take like 10 minutes to record on each. And that's basically going to take up July and August. So they will
Unless
release,
we get like a bombshell news.
something happens and we come on. Then that's when we come on,
Yeah.
right? So we've got basically next Monday and the Monday afterwards of live episodes. I will then send out, that'll be it for video side of it. The podcast side of it will still get out there for July and August. I think it'll still upload on YouTube regardless, audio wise. So you should be okay with that. But yeah, so 2 more live episodes and then we'll be off from July to August. I'm going to have stuff recorded though from July to August, and then we'll be unless something crazy happens, like you mentioned,
of course. We'll yeah, for sure.
And then we'll be picking it back up again beginning of September, because summertime is the cool down time for hockey.
Summertime is the cool down time. It is the time of the year where we can all,
relax.
Relax,
that's the plan.
Get ourselves recharged and get ready for, because guys, September is going to come around very quickly.
Yeah.
So
Monday's also going to be the draft review as well.
Sure. Yes.
We'll have that.
And who knows? Maybe James Higgins is a Calgary Flame when it's all said and done.
You never know. And then the Monday after, will be free agency recap, because the majority of it will probably be done. And that will be our last one until September. And that's the plan, though. So
sounds good.
Awesome. Good stuff today. And enjoy all the craziness that happens this week. I'll be on monitor for Andersson this week, and we'll probably jump on. I know I'll jump on if you can't, for an emergency pod if and when he gets dealt.
Sure.
Might be live on Friday. We'll see how it goes. But
who knows? Maybe an hour after we're done, maybe we'll be back and we'll have something to talk about.
Last thing I was going to mention too is when the OHL season begins next year, we do a friendly wager and pick 10 teams each.
Okay. Down for it.
So start looking this summer.
So what? Like we just pick 10 teams we think are going to be good?
There's 20 teams in the league. So you get 10 and I get 10. And we do it for
just the OHL? Okay, I'm down. Yep.
Yeah, we'll just do the OHL.
All right, cool.
Because you're trying to get into.
No. It's hard to watch though, because I'm in the United States.
I think there's still a way to do it though. I have to look at it, but there's a way to do it.
I'm gonna look around. I'm gonna look around and see if I can find something for next.
But you should, like, if honestly, like, there's sometimes not a lot on like Friday nights. Sometimes especially in September, right? Like that's when the season begins, beginning of September. And I love the playoffs. I thought the OHL playoffs this year was fun. Really
it was fun to watch. Thank God NHL Network showed a lot of the games, so I was able to watch a lot of them. So
the Memorial Cup being what it was, and the stupid Knights won it. So hopefully they're done.
Jason Dickinson is really good. I think the Sharks may have. I hate saying it, but I think the Sharks may have.
Oh, Sam Dickinson, you mean? Yeah.
Dickinson, sorry, Jason Dickinson's on the
Canucks.
Is he still playing?
Yeah, he's still playing.
It's on the Stars, right?
Stars, excuse me.
Yeah, Jason Dickinson, you idiot. Yeah, Sam Dickinson.
Yeah, the Sharks won the draft last year. We know that, but the Flames were right up there. All right, good stuff.
They need to. They're still not going to be great. Actually, my hot take is I think Mitch Marner signs with the Sharks. I think it's my hot take.
I think because I implanted that in your head a while ago. Remember when
I don't know. It's just like now we're seeing he might sign for 2 years, which would be the funniest thing ever if he signed for 2 years. And if he signs 2 years, it's going to be Vegas. I'm not even going to.
Carolina's in that talk too as well.
Carolina wants to sign him for like
14
million. And if they do that, I don't know.
I hate it.
I don't know. I wouldn't. I think
He's
that would
signing
be.
for the money. That's
I think
all
that
he's
would
doing.
be very bad.
It would.
Business.
It absolutely would.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Good stuff. That's going to wrap it up for today. And we will see you all on next Monday for draft review and free agency preview. So we'll see you all then and have a great rest
Later,
of the week.
guys.
Bye.